This table compliments all of us. I'm so excited.
Is everybody else as hungry as I am? I'm starving.
Starving. This is so delicious.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why am I searching for like this body that I had when I was 23?
Yeah.
That's not who I am, like what I have done since
No,
then.
that body has gotten you here.
Exactly.
There's this concept of the girl on the screen, not knowing who that person is, and that looks like perfection.
Who remembers the colored contact trend? That was my thing. I had blue contacts that I just would not take out.
Ever notice the ones who were wearing the contacts, they'd greet you like this? Like, they needed you to compliment the eyes. Carla.
Nina.
I'm so excited to be with you.
Oh. How are you?
I'm good because it smells good in here. What is this?
This is a rustic carrot tart.
Oh, it smells so good. So explain this to me.
So this is celery root, and celery root is kind of ugly. It's the
This one?
Yeah, that one. You see how gnarly it looks?
It is a little funky.
Would you buy that if you saw it in the store?
No, I wouldn't know what to do.
You would just overlook it.
Absolutely.
So I'm taking things that would normally be overlooked and putting them. So with this, I'm gonna brush some barbecue sauce on it, and we're gonna have it with baked beans and coleslaw. And it's sort of my nod to the South, and we're basically doing a cookout for brunch.
I love that. Okay, since we are talking about body and all things beauty, we got a nice little mix of people. So, you know Maya, the singer. Yes. Breathtaking. We also have another model, Nazanin. She's absolutely wonderful. Allie is an actress. She's in all of my favorite shows.
Yes.
Okay. Monica, she's an influencer, the bubbliest personality. I don't know if we can match your energy, but she's gonna try. One more person.
Oh, wait, who?
Iskra. She's an activist. She's involved in beauty. She's a model. You're gonna love everyone. So I'm gonna let you cook and do your thing. I'm gonna do my thing and set the table.
All right.
And I'll see you outside.
I'll see you outside.
Okay. I'm excited.
Bye. Nina!
What do you think?
It's gorgeous! Hello!
Hello there.
Oh,
This looks amazing.
This table compliments all of us. I'm so excited.
Right? Is everybody else as hungry as I am? I'm starving.
Starving.
Ready for this meal.
You guys, I'm so excited to be here with you and have this amazing conversation with the amazing meal that you have prepared for us. And to kind of kick things off, I thought it would be fun to add a little activity for us.
Okay.
I have what I call the magical scrolls. Okay. We're gonna pick one out, and then you're gonna open it and read what's on it. It's like a reverse fortune cookie. You know, we're gonna read the question and then each answer. And I would love for us to all contribute to the conversation. I'm gonna get us started, guys. What is a beauty trend you participated in that you're now embarrassed to admit?
My goodness. Too many.
See, I love that we are all excited to admit this. So I'll start. For me, it was the pencil thin brows. You plucked them all the way where there was almost that thin line like from the 1920s. I didn't realize they were as thin as they were until I looked at some pictures. They weren't there. There was nothing there.
They look thick and gorgeous
So
now.
thank God they grew back.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Never
Thank you. Yes, I keep them thick now.
In middle school, like the Smackers, like vanilla ice.
Oh my God, yes!
I love lip smackers.
And like, it was so delicious, you wanted to eat it, but you would put on way too much, and then like, you'd catch yourself in the mirror and you'd be like, I look great. And now looking back, you're like,
chapstick
whoa.
and you're like, man.
Like a white
No, it's true. Yeah.
I did. Do you remember when like silver gray hair was a thing, but like when you dyed it, like on purpose?
Yes, yes,
Remember that?
yes,
I did it and it wrecked my hair because little did I know the upkeep of like actually keeping your hair that beautiful like silver gray color. You have to keep going and get it done regularly. If you have warm blonde underneath, it turns green. I literally turned around one day and I was like, I have green hair.
Wait, who remembers the colored contact trend? That was my thing. I had blue contacts that I just would not take out. Girl, yes, because it's deep. It's very, very deep, you know? Brown eyes, you just felt so normal, or they were too plain and regular.
Wow.
It's 2002. You're gonna pop in the blue contacts, but looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that.
It was a trend.
I remember looking into people's eyes, you're like, those aren't yours.
Exactly.
But you never ever noticed the ones who were wearing the contacts, they'd greet you like this. Like, they needed you to compliment the eyes. Like they led with the eyes.
It was a thing. Mine was probably in high school. I used the black lip liner.
Yes.
But there was the white lipstick that went inside.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. It was like,
Wait, where are you from?
It was horrific. Maryland.
Black lip liner with white lipstick?
Yes. It was a very, very harsh time.
Because I'm from the South, Nashville, Tennessee, I did a shortcut deviled egg. This is boiling the egg soft and putting all that stuff right on top. And it has a little bit of Aleppo pepper, but when you eat it all together, it tastes like a deviled egg.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we just eat it with our fingers then.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. I was like, are we really gonna pop out a
Please
fork?
don't do that.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the first person to fit outside the traditional beauty mold you admired or made you feel seen in your own body?
Mine's controversial. Mine's Kim Kardashian.
Really?
Yeah, because I grew up, and my dad's one of 10, and he has 7 sisters, and they all have like pear-shaped bodies. And I grew up literally being told I would get the curse of the Lawrence bum. It was the worst thing imaginable. And going through like the fashion industry and constantly being told my hips were too big, it wasn't really until I saw her like really break through and like put it on the map that it was okay to have like hips and butt. It's like, I can embrace mine and like I know how to style my curves, and like I felt very seen, and yeah, it really helped me. And then it was a time where social media was coming up, and it gave me the confidence to shoot and be more proud of my shape. And
That's wonderful.
shout out to Kim.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like a huge part of what motivates me to do certain things in my career is to create a role model so younger people with disabilities can see that like disabled bodies are beautiful, and that like disability is such a huge spectrum. And so like I think I was looking for someone who looked like me in my chair, but I really struggled because people were always like, well, you're too pretty to be in a wheelchair. And it was this idea of that, like, you can't be disabled and beautiful. And so for me, that was like a journey of, I think, finding my confidence in the thing that I loved most, which was theater and singing and being on stage and allowing people to see me. Because on stage, you're commanding
The
people
audience.
to look at you. And that changed my entire life, because I was like, yeah, I can be seen and be beautiful and powerful.
Absolutely.
And that shifted it.
It's something to be said about not feeling seen or having a representation that you feel that expresses your upbringing or what your beauty standard is, because it's such a hindrance growing up, but it becomes almost a superpower when you get older, because you're like, well, then I have to create it. When I first started doing entertainment reporting, everyone was a size 0. You know, it was just, they were just, especially on the red carpets, you know, and it was about what you had on. It wasn't about what you were saying. And now I love the time we're in, because I do feel like it's more content driven and about the questions you're asking, and less about like, if you have on a pretty dress, and you know, it's something to be said for not having that, because it does give you the strength to be like, all right, well then I'm gonna be it.
Okay.
See, I think to that point in being on television, so when I decided to go gray, I looked for somebody who was on television who was great. So it didn't happen in the opposite way. It was looking for somebody who was great that I could show as an example. Because when I said I wanted to go gray, one of the executives said, oh, we'll see.
Oh.
I'm a Taurus. You may as well give me permission. You may as well say, girl, go do you.
Right.
But there's that quote, if you cannot see, you cannot be. But I think what we're saying is it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And there's such a need when you don't see something to then step up and be that representation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's super empowering.
It is.
I remember coming in and everybody was doing something as simple as like an Afro-Latina tag. I'm an Afro-Latina, I'm a Black woman, but I'm Dominican, you know? So I just said, let me just hop on the Latina tag bank. Child, they said, you Black girl, why you on this tag? You know, like, so it was the first time where I was like, wait, like even again, I was reminded, you are still not represented because people are not even used to seeing a Black woman speak Spanish, talk about her culture, and people were just like, girl, no, you're doing the wrong thing. And I was like, okay, I guess now, I guess I have to be this person. I didn't sign up to be anything other than myself. But it is a challenge to constantly have to feel like you have to prove yourself, but ultimately being who you are should be enough.
It's also that these rules that people have created don't exist.
Yeah, these boxes.
And so we have these people telling us what things are, what a Latina woman should look like, or what Afro-Latina looks like or sounds like, what women on TV are supposed to look like. I feel like there's all these things thrown at us that are made by people who do not look like us.
We want to see what y'all look like. What y'all look like?
Made these societal standards are built by men, a lot of them.
Yes.
That are in the industry. They want to put what they want to see on screen.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
those
so
are
true.
our examples.
It's true.
My example was the first time I saw Selma Hayek and From Dusk Till Dawn. I was like, that's my example. That's my girl. You know, she's Latin, like she's mixed. That was the first time I saw somebody similar, and that was like, okay, I could do this. I could act. I can, you know, I can be on screen as well. So that was a moment for me. And then second, I want to give you your flowers. Yes, because watching you when I was younger made me feel seen. Watching somebody young and successful and singing and doing it made me feel so seen and like I could do it too. So I just want to say thank you. Because that's like, it was such a moment. See, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, killing it.
Well, you know, it comes with the territory of feeling insecure, being in the public's eye. And my mom was that example for me. You know, I had a hair complex very, very early on. My hair was a bit, quote unquote, unruly at the time, so I would get made fun of quite a bit. Every day, actually, in school. And I would go home crying sometimes and not understanding why my hair wasn't laying flat or why it wouldn't straighten or stay the same. And then being in the arts, there was a prerequisite and a requirement to come with your hair in a bun. And mine would not lay flat. There were curls everywhere, and there's pressure to feel like you fit in, obviously, for validation, acceptance. My mom was that example that reminded me that, hey, she went through the same thing. She had frizzy hair, she was made fun of, but just to be. And so now I just embrace every part of myself that doesn't fit in because it makes you unique.
It does.
And it's not about the outside at the end of the day, it's about the interior that matters because all of this diminishes anyways.
And it just is relative, right? Because it was so funny. I just recently had dinner in New York and I, was at this table and everybody's beauty standard was different, And so everybody was saying what they found attractive and I was just observing and they were all just so vastly different from the one next to them. And if I was trying to keep up with all of these different trends, I would lose it. So it just really made me be like, I almost got stubborn, like, well, I'm about to do exactly what I want to do. Because y'all all over the place, All right, this looks amazing. Carla, can you explain what we are about to chow down on?
Yes, so this is a cookout on plate. So you have your baked beans, you have your coleslaw, and then you have a barbecue. The celery root, it is roasted and then barbecue sauce, and then you have the coleslaw. Your next course is a seared cod with a green chili broth and kombucha soup. And on top, it has rutabaga and hominy. And the reason I chose green, because sometimes green is synonymous with healthy, and healthy is synonymous with nasty. People are like, I don't want healthy. Healthy's nasty.
So that's a mess.
So changing that.
Dig in, you guys.
Thank you. The food's so good.
I feel like we should get to our next question.
That would be me.
Yeah.
How do you determine when someone is celebrating you versus treating you as a fetish?
Ooh. I think anytime, especially as a woman, when you have a body part that is large, you can attract that. For me, like, I have large breasts. It's genetic. It's nothing I can do about it. It was just how you were talking about the large hips. So for me, I've always had extra large breasts, right? Flat butt. God knew not to give me both.
We would not
y'all wouldn't have seen me here. I would have been dancing somewhere. But for me, because I went from being like really flat to, as soon as I hit puberty, I became really curvy. And I started trying to hide my body, hide my breasts, wear big sweatshirts. I was uncomfortable. But I feel like once I started to embrace it, I got my power. And so for me, I just kind of feel like this is my body. If I wear spaghetti straps, I'm gonna look different than if you wear spaghetti straps.
Correct.
But we're wearing the same top, right? But mine is very sexualized.
Right.
And I don't feel like it's fair because I'm like, I want to wear a tank top. I want to be able to be free. I would love to go braless, but I shut this whole thing down.
Shut it down.
You know what I mean? I can't do those things. But I feel like that doesn't create a space for someone to come in and say, I want to use you because of this. And so I feel like I've attracted people, obviously. You attract all kinds of types, right? And I've attracted people who wanted to fetishize my body, really want a curvy woman, and this is, you know, especially curvy black girl, and so it can attract that. But, you know, people want to fetishize you are very transparent.
Right.
I mean, you can kind of read them pretty
they will
quickly.
tell you because
what they're looking for. They have a box.
Yeah.
I grew up very petite, and I've always wanted to have the boobs, the booty, and to be fully transparent, I actually got my girls done 6 months before I got pregnant, child. Okay? And then you know what happens, you know, once you get pregnant, the girls, they fill up more. So now I'm dealing with so many other features of myself. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, right? Growing up, for me, it was always about celebrating your curves. Like, my family said, if you have it, put it on. If you love it, we love it even more. So going into social media, I'll be like, when people try to come for me, I'm like, y'all understand, I come from a cutthroat family. Like, this is not it. I've heard it all. Like, I come from women encouraging one another. Like, if you love how you walk out this room, I don't want you to care about what other people think about you. And it's also about what you put out. And if you put out great energy and you have on a garbage bag or whatever it is you look like, people gonna be like, oh, she ate that.
When I graduated from college, Facebook was like really big. It was 2009, and I did not have any relationships in college, and I really wanted to meet someone. And so I was on Facebook, and it was the first time that I felt like I was like meeting other people with disabilities, like a little bit more easily. And there was a guy who had like all these pictures, and he looked like a guy that I used to wheelchair race with when I was a kid. And then we like exchanged phone numbers, and we started talking on the phone, but something felt off. And then after like a few weeks of talking, I was with a new friend out here who was also in a chair. And I mentioned his name. And she was like, oh, do you know who that is? And I was like, no. She was like, he's a devotee. And I was like, what is that? And she was like, there's this whole community of people online that like fetishize women in chairs or like with disabilities. And like they will specifically like ask for like pictures of your disabled feet or like pictures of your disabled legs, and there are websites that like girls don't know that they're on.
Oh my gosh.
And it scared me so much about like what I was putting out. It made me want to go in. This experience on Facebook in 2009
still has an impact on the decisions you're making.
To this day, it's part of why I don't like social media.
Being under a microscope, you hear the opposition, and that stays with you. That stays with you.
That's all negative voice louder.
Oh yes, I've been called everything under the book. You know, I've been called washed up. I've been called many different things, or your career is over, or you're not this enough, you're too slim, or you're too thick. In the same day. There are a lot of voices, there's a lot of noise in the world on social media, but especially in entertainment. I think where it's been difficult for me to live is in an actual relationship because there's this concept of the girl on the screen, not knowing who that person is, but adopting a concept and an idea of that being what I'm going to get every day. That is what I love without knowing me. That is what I want. But what is that defined as? And that looks like perfection. Of course, there's lighting, there's a whole camera crew, there's a makeup department, there's a wardrobe department. I mean, and
But in a
hours.
way, that's a kind of fetish.
That is a fetish. But when you're getting down to the human being in an actual relationship and trying to connect with someone on a personal level, that is a big challenge.
And are you allowed to be human?
I can now see that the difference between celebration and fetishization is celebration is just wanting to uplift and celebrate that person with no agenda.
Absolutely.
All right. Has body dysmorphia or an eating disorder played a role in your life or someone you love? Ooh. When I was about, let's say, 11 years old, I had someone very, very close to me and influential tell me that I needed to watch my weight and that if I didn't, it would impact my career. So when I was young, I was acting and singing and modeling since I was like 10. So that standard of perfection started so young for me. And if I ate something, I immediately felt guilty.
Wow.
Immediately, at 11 years old.
Wow.
And it's something that I still deal with. And I always say, body dysmorphia for most doesn't ever go away. You learn how to manage it. It's about coping with it. It's so important to watch what we say to the youth. Because the programming starts
so early. It's so true.
I didn't know about body dysmorphia. And I didn't know that word. I didn't know BDD, body dysmorphia disorder. And my nephew has it. And I don't know how to help him. I don't know what to say. And when he says, oh, people are looking at me, so I have to leave, or I have to put the hoodie over his face, and he is such a beautiful young man. And you feel so helpless. And you wonder where it came from, and it just sort of happened, like in the last 5 years. You know, and he works out, but his reality isn't what we see. And it's tough. It's tough.
I suffer from it, and you don't know that that's what it is.
Exactly.
You know, until you start to talk to people and you'll say something about yourself, and they're like, what are you talking about? And it took me getting into therapy and having extensive therapy and having the therapist do different exercises and work. And she actually made me say, the things the voice says, I never said them out loud. It always had been an internal conversation. So she made me do this exercise where I had to put an empty chair and my imaginary self was there, and I had to say those things that this voice said. And I started to cry. And I said, I would never say these to another human being. I would never speak like this to an... And she says, you're saying these things to yourself every day. And these were things I wouldn't say to my worst enemy. And it really shocked me back into reality. It was that exercise that actually shocked me back because they were so horrific. When I started to say them, I just exploded in tears. And I couldn't believe I had been thinking these things. It was almost like as soon as I said it out loud, it lost its power. Because I said, this isn't true.
I love that. That's similar to the exercises I do, because I tour around the US. I've been working about 10 years with eating disorder charities. Similar to you, I kind of got into the industry with modeling very, very young and was told that my body shape was not good enough. And so I didn't know how to go about navigating that. And so I would measure myself, every single part of my body to the ½ centimeter. I had the book, had my measurements, I had my weight. I wore things that would make me look slimmer. I made all these decisions based on the fact that being as slim as possible was the most important thing in my world. And it ate up my world for many, many years. And I'm very grateful now that I've been able to use that to then go and help other people. But what you're saying about your nephew is that is my absolute passion. I've gone to Congress and I've been with families that have lost their children from eating disorders. And it's just not okay.
Because you don't know what the rock bottom is, like when he's ready, but what is rock bottom? What does that look like?
So for me, we have the most important relationship in our whole life is the one with ourselves. And they are not teaching that at schools. So I come with presentations and I talk to these kids, and it doesn't matter what age they are, boy, girl, what their background is, they will come up to me and say, no one's ever talked to me about these things, and I needed this. And so as parents, obviously, we have the, you know, the opportunity to try and like teach our children, but as a society, it needs to be a priority.
It's such a tricky sort of time too, because everyone is taking pictures of each other or themselves all the time.
Yeah.
And I watch so many women around me like zoom in on themselves and like look at the picture.
Pick it apart.
So my sister suffered with disordered eating for a long time and like finally is really open about it, and her career is now around it. And we talk a lot about like, what are these photos? Like, these photos are moments in our lives and like what they represent and how we feel and who we're with versus how did I look in that photo? Because I'll do it, like I'll compare like, what did I look like before I had the baby? But what do I look like now? Like, what did I look like before the pandemic? What did I look like before I did this show? And it's this weird concept about like going back. And it's like nowhere in my life do I talk about like, oh, I want to go back. Like I always want to go forward and grow. But something about our image being the one we were before
Immortalize basically.
Right. And I'm like, why do I do that? Like, why am I searching for like this body that I had when I was 23? Like, that's not who I am, like what I have done since then.
That body has gotten you here.
Exactly.
You need to praise it.
Absolutely.
You need to nurture it.
You're having a rustic carrot tart with a loaded crumble. In the loaded crumble, it is coconuts, pecans, pineapple, and oats. Enjoy, y'all. What's your scroll say?
Do you feel you have ownership of your own body?
Ooh.
It's been a transition going from motherhood to a new body to not really recognizing, like I said before, where you're looking in the mirror and you don't really recognize who you see. I don't know if other women have done this, if you've had children, you're like, I'm gonna go back to those clothes, so I'm just gonna put it in storage, right? You don't go back to those clothes, then you realize you're now grieving this old body, this old version of you. It is kind of like a little death where you kind of have to make amends and like, Monica, you're not going back to her. Move forward. And I feel like I just got to a point where I'm like, yeah, I got stretch marks on my boobies. This is who I am. And I think for me, what helps me feel good in this is when I see my child. And I'm like, I have this child who I created, and I'm worried about these scars on my body. Like, he grounds me. It gives me more of like, girl, you did that. It's okay. It's okay if you feel like this at times, but don't let it consume you.
I can see like how ownership has been different in every season of my life. Like when I go back to the time when I had my eating disorder, I felt like my eating disorder had ownership of my body. Then I feel like an ex-boyfriend had ownership of my body. He told me I was a piece of meat. He put me down so that I wouldn't leave him. And then I feel like the industry had ownership of my body. They were using my image to sell things, and they were photoshopping me to how they wanted me to appear to sell those things. And it really wasn't until I took that ownership back of like being vocal, being very honest, being very authentic. Social media helped me do that. Social media can be very detrimental in some ways, but it can be super empowering when you find that community and you find your voice.
It's such an interesting question for me because I'm paralyzed, so I don't feel a lot of my body. So the experience of living in a body that you don't feel 75% of, it's a bit of like a mind thing because I was hurt when I was 2, so it's like all I know. However, I've done a lot of disassociation in my life with my body. Like if I can't feel it, then like it's not something I have to deal with. And so I used to be like, I'm fine, and push everything down because I felt like I had to show everybody else that I was okay in order to prove that being disabled wasn't gonna bother me or take me down. And then I got older, and that pushing down started to crack. I was like, I can't do this. Like some days are like harder than others, and like some things happen, and like, when you have a disability, like, you don't get breaks on the weekends. You're always living in this body. So I feel like now I have, like, so much more grace and, like, understanding and, like, I want to be compassionate to this body that's done so much for me. I just had a baby, like, that has carried me so many places, even with all of the things that I was told for years are wrong with it, that are the disabilities. It's like, no, these are the parts of me, and like still to this day, like really learning to love them.
You guys, I've enjoyed this conversation so much. You didn't know this, but I got a little project for us.
Oh,
a little art project.
Oh my God.
Do you like arts and crafts?
Oh my God, I love crafts.
Okay, exciting.
She likes to get it naked while she does it too.
Oh, yeah. Let's add a little spice to it.
You know.
I have these floral arrangements that I want you guys to take a look at, and we can make affirmations on them if you choose to. And it'll last forever. And I think it'll just be a perfect cherry on top for this wonderful conversation.
I saw how you did that, Cherry.
You like that? That was for you. This dessert is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Wow, this is all been. Every bite was wow.
How do you maintain body positivity?
Ooh.
Oh, that is so beautiful to end on.
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna say, spiritually, I belong to a group, Athena Sisters, and it's all about being in my authentic self. Because I cannot be authentic without loving every part of my body.
Body positivity is, I think, important to say. You do not always feel positive about your body.
Yes, yeah.
But you just don't stay there. For me, it's always been like, but let me circle back. Like, let me feel my feelings.
Yes.
Let me feel my feelings.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna circle back to feeling good about myself. Because I'm not gonna stay here all week. No. You know?
And I oftentimes hear people talk about themselves in like a negative light. My first thing I go to, who are you around? The people around me will be like, Monica, stop. Like, I'm gonna give you a few days to feel like this, but what can we do to feel better by yourself? And I have a great support group of people who constantly will make me be like, girl, you are it. Never forget it.
And that's why I'm so glad I wasn't alone today.
Exactly.
I was with you guys. It's so nice. This has felt like a hug that I didn't know I needed. And y'all just check your DMs. I might hit you up and just, if I'm having a day, I'm gonna be like, okay, y'all.
Yes.
I need that reality check. So, you know, we're always on the go. Now we have a support group within ourselves. So if you ever need to check in, I'm here.
Same.
You know,
Same.
I'll read my messages.